Hi guys, welcome back to the Fight Podcast with Sharir Richmond.
Hi, how are you, Jan?
And with me, Jan. Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing.
You're amazing. You are amazing. Sharir, I wanted to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I get asked a lot of times while giving training is with people who start their first couple of training sessions. They come to me and it's like, okay, I've experienced this thing. That's oftentimes the reason why people come. They're like confronted with the situation. They're afraid. They come. You talk to them about whatever situation happened. And there's this thing where they're like, I'm afraid because I wasn't ready then. And with this whole thing, oftentimes they ask me, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? And especially when you look at the stuff, the Krav Maga stuff on YouTube, it's always this very specific thing.
Yeah.
And I think this is not the right way to train to fight for specific things, because oftentimes you can't control the way a situation goes. You'll be surprised. So when you're talking to people in your classes about, in general, preparing them for any kind of a fight, what do you prepare them for? What do you talk about?
We don't go like, I think like going through every single scenario you think about is a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of living in a fantasy world, you know. We do scenario training, but that's a very different approach how we do it. But if you prepare yourself mentally to become a warrior, then whatever situation you'll go into, you'll find a solution to, for sure, because your attitude is that way and your mindset is strong. So whatever problem that you will encounter, I am certain that you also find a solution. So instead of going and acting like in a movie and doing scenario over scenario over scenario and doing this like choreographed stuff, and then when something really happens you're so scared you can't even move. Focus on the mentality, focus on word development drills, focus on full contact, and then I know for sure that the warrior I built is going to be able to deal with anything thrown at him. Why? Because his mind is strong, because he's tough.
And I think a lot of people who also give training in these, like who give combat training for civilians, not in the military, but just like Krav people, or sometimes they struggle with this idea to prepare someone to be surprised, because they have like these techniques or these ideas or these super rigid systems, but they are not capable of dealing with surprise. And I think that's something, especially with the warrior development drills, it's always about being surprised.
You're going to be surprised, you know, so there's always that initial first, second freeze, you know, it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But then react.
Mm-hmm.
Just react, you know, and the more you train correctly, the more effectively you're going to probably end up reacting. You see it over and over again in real fights, in real violence, you know. Your reaction has a lot to do, everything to do with your personality and how you train for it. And just doing, you know, bullshit at the gym, at the school is not going to help you react. And it's also, no matter how many scenarios you do, it's never going to be exactly what you thought. And the feeling of the fight and the exact position. So a fight, in many cases, yes, it's a surprise. Of course, you try to avoid it by being alert in the surroundings and, you know, but once you understand you're in a fight, then fight hard. You know, and the only way to do that is by proper training.
If there's a chance to avoid the fight, sure. There's that's the goal of
what's the easiest? Too. What's the best way of avoiding a fight, though? What's the best way of avoiding a fight? Here, let me ask you. What do you think? What's the best way of avoiding a fight?
You could lock yourself in.
well, that's a way. Put yourself in the basement. You know, put your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Never come out for 15 years. You'll avoid a fight. But the second way of avoiding a fight is being a hard target. If you're a hard target, chances are you'll avoid a fight. And the best way that I know of being a hard target is being a professional,
Mm-hmm.
being a badass. If you're a badass, you'll avoid fights
Mm-hmm.
just because people don't want to mess with you because you're a badass. You know, it's something that you project. So proper training gets you that. You know, the more you're trained, the more you're ready, the tougher you are, the less of a chance you'll probably have to fight.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think that a lot of people have this misconception about what a fight looks like. There's like these two people, they stand there, they scream at each other, and then there's like this cool move, and then you're done. That's just not how it works, because you said that, I think, in one of the last episodes, I'm not sure when, you said that oftentimes it's a surprise attack, or it doesn't have to be, but it's like you get beaten over the head and then it starts. You have to react. It's a reactionary thing. You can't control everything. And I think what I've noticed is with violence in general, if you try to control the situation, you're still afraid of being hit. And you said this with how you train with the military, that if they get ambushed, the idea is, or the first concept is to assume, okay, we're already dead. Everything we do now is a plus. And if you assume this mentality, it's not really a good prevention mentality, let's put it like this. But if you're already in the scenario itself, then this is how your only chance to deal with a threat like that.
The charge, go forward.
Yeah. And that's very different from this idea of you have to control everything, because that's unrealistic, especially if you have someone who's not choreographing this with you. Like so much of the stuff, lately I've seen a video with like this guy shows multiple attackers, and then they kind of push him lightly, and that's supposed to be multiple attackers, and you're like, this is not in any form beneficial.
I don't watch those kind of videos, so I'm sorry that you know, it's a waste of time.
Yeah,
you know, it's that kind of thing is.
Sometimes you stumble upon them online, and it's just, like, yeah, okay.
But doing that kind of training is a pure waste of time. You know,
it gives you a false sense of confidence. It doesn't.
I don't know what it
give you any technique. But that's the whole idea of if you claim to control the situation, then you will be surprised very badly if it happens.
Focus your training. You want to get ready for a fight, so focus your training on being the meanest, leanest
fighting machinist.
Exactly. Just focus on that.
Yeah.
And then you'll avoid more fights.
And that's something you can't really specifically prepare for. And that's why the warrior development drills are so important. It's about being flexible, but also being aggressive. These things.
It's about being able to turn on beast mode.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you need it, turn it on like a switch. And boom, you're in boom, let's go forward. Right? That's what they're for. The warrior development drills are for making sure that the person reacts effectively in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't freeze, stay frozen.
And that's something with ICCS that I enjoy very much. That is different from different systems I've been in contact with. But also that is something that people who fight MMA, for instance, it's not something they usually or that necessarily learn in their approach to fights, because as you said, you put your MMA dudes with 3 attackers. That's developing aggression. Also, you said with the knife drills, not only is the one defending training, the one attacking with the knife is training as well. Not necessarily technique with the knife, but it's aggression. You have to keep on it. And I've noticed this. The doing both sides has a benefit to you, and you develop these things, this strength kind of, and that's how you train spontaneous behavior. It's not something that you can prepare for. That's not how being spontaneous works. So that's how you prepare for not being prepared.
People just have the wrong concept of self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we speak about this all the time of training. You know, it's they watched one too many movies. You know, that's all it is. It's choreographed. You know, anytime there's an agreement between two people, what is exactly about to happen?
Yeah.
You know, you're not really training. You know, you're doing. You know, you
dancing.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're dancing. You're reviewing something. You know, but that and reality have nothing to do with each other.
Mm-hmm. And I think that with what you learn from these things, or the thing that makes you good at these spontaneous reactions, is feeling comfortable at a point where you feel like shit. Especially with the warrior development drills, sometimes people have to do very physically straining things beforehand. They have to run, they have to do something. They already feel like shit, and then they start the workout.
Yeah, because
the
we
drill.
spoke about that if you remember, for pressure training, you have to have two elements to it. One, person doing the drill already has to be in a state of fatigue before he starts, and then the partner has to be really resisting, right? So that's one reason. Also, that fact that you're used to feeling like crap and you keep moving forward,
pushing through.
That's a very important habit and learning curve. It's not always about making you in shape. Being in shape, that's very important, but that's your responsibility, But it's about getting used to feeling like crap and still moving forward. People, what happens is they get really tired and then they get nervous. Just from the fact that they can't really breathe, they're tired. But if you're used to that feeling and you could dig deep and go through it, that's another great thing that comes from the warrior development drills is I'm not always, for example, in the best shape of my life. I don't even like running, but
me neither, but I still do.
But I'm used to feeling like shit.
Yeah,
it doesn't scare me. And that's a very, very important part of the warrior development drills, sparring, wrestling, all the contact stuff. That you don't get that from just like weird self-defense training. You're not going to get that feeling. And that's important because that's in a street fight, you'll feel like shit in 12 seconds. You'll feel like 3 minutes of a sprint in a gym because of all the pressure and all the nervousness.
And beforehand, it already kicks in, so the heart rate is up for the extended period of time. For the part of getting used to that, is it just mere exposure, or do you give something to the people? Like, do you have tools to give them to push through? Like, is there something you can
just train? You just have to train, like and you see it always. Like the first time a person does a drill, like a warrior development drill with a knife, he usually he does pretty bad. The second time it's better, third time better and better, and you see a person doing it for a period of time, he's really getting better and better. But it's not something you can learn on a PowerPoint presentation, or I could just explain to you and you'll understand theoretically.
Yeah,
it has to be hands-on training, just like swimming or anything else, physical. You have to learn it through your mentality, through your head, but also you have to learn it through your feet.
Yeah.
And the only way to do it is actually do it over and over and over again.
Putting the miles in, yeah. Also, I think for some reason, I don't really understand how that works, but the approach to a fight, the mindset, how you perceive a fight, when that changed for me, the outcome changed. So, for instance, especially these people, that's why I started the episode with the people who start our training and who are still not that confident. Most of these people come here because they're scared to be hurt. That's the idea. They come here because they're scared to be hurt. Now they want to learn how to fight.
It's an interesting thing you're saying. Most, if you go into self-defense schools, Krav, Maga schools, other forms of self-defense, I think most students around the world, I give seminars all over the world, most beginner students at least have the same thing in common. They all have a victim mentality.
Yep.
That's exactly why they're going to learn self-defense, because they're afraid of getting attacked. You see, if someone loves to fight, he's not going to go to a Krav class. He's going to go to boxing, Thai boxing, MMA, something with full contact, because he likes it. That's what he's there for. If someone's afraid of a fight, that's the students you're going to get in a self-defense class, right?
But it's not to blame them, but it's just a different...
It's just how it is. It's just reality. And a lot of times, the instructors, unknowingly, of course, they make their students worse, not better.
How so?
By feeding into their fears, and by just all this, like the scenarios they come up with and all that stuff, false confidence, or no confidence at all, and all that, because they do it wrongly, right? But here's the thing. If a person comes because he's afraid of fighting, what's the only way to get him out of that fear? Right? Fear is a real thing, right? Fear stops you from doing many things in life, right? Whether it's whatever, relationships or jobs or anything. Fear is very real. But the only way that I know of that you could deal with your fear is doing exactly what you're afraid of. You just have to deal with it head on. So if you're afraid of fighting,
confrontation.
If you're afraid of a fight, only way to deal with it is you actually have to fight. So of course, you're not going to go out in the street. Okay, here's a lesson. Let's do this. In some bar. No, but that's why. Another reason why reason 832 why sparring is so important.
Yeah,
because you're doing what you're afraid of, and if you do what you're afraid of, you say, hey, you know what, I could deal with it. It's not so bad. But you're talking about preparation for a fight. What's a better way to prepare for a fight than actually fight? Mm-hmm. People go around and around and around. Hey, let's prepare for a fight. I'm going to show you what to do when they grab your shirt and grab you here. Now you're on your knees. I have a gun to your head. What the hell? Just fight. You want to prepare for a fight? Fight. How come if you're doing an MMA or boxing or any other full contact, you want to prepare, what do? You fight. But then when you want to prepare for something that actually will save your life in the street, you don't even fight. You just do like bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's a waste of time. That's why I said before, it's a waste of time. You want to prepare for a fight, then fight. The more sparring, the better. And then people say, but sparring is not a real fight. Well, no shit, it's not a real fight. But it's close.
It's as close as you can get, yeah.
It gives you, especially MMA sparring, it gives you all the distances. It gives you that sensation of a fight. It helps you work under pressure. It helps you getting used to hitting people and getting used to getting hit.
Yeah.
So why not do it? Because we kick people in the balls. Yeah, right. No, you don't.
If we went to the octagon, we would kill you.
Yeah.
We would gouge out your eyes.
When people talk like that, I'm actually embarrassed. Because they're giving Krav a bad rep. It's actually embarrassing when people say this kind of stuff.
And by the way, this is a way that Krav instructor also feed into that same issue, because if they prepare you for this and that scenario instead of teaching you how to fight, then they instill this fear again.
Imagine a guy or girl, it doesn't matter, they come into class because they're afraid of fighting. Mm-hmm. Maybe they got attacked, maybe not. That's not important for this example. And they come in and they're like, hey, I want to learn how to protect myself. I'm afraid of getting attacked. Okay, fine. So the instructor goes, okay, look, I'm going to show you how to protect yourself. So if someone grabs your shirt, just do this and this and this. That's total bullshit. Okay, scenario number 2, a guy comes into your class. Hey, I want to learn how to protect myself because I'm afraid of getting hit. I'm afraid of fighting. Okay, put the gloves on. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. What do you think is better? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just common sense. Because go back to the first case. Okay, here's how to deal with a shirt grab. Come on, right? If he or she is a small guy or a girl, and then this big monster grabs your shirt and starts shaking you, you're gonna freeze.
Yeah,
and you're gonna be so scared because you are scared. We know you're scared of fighting. That's why you're doing. You're not a professional fighter. That's why you come to learn how to defend yourself. So someone showed you something theoretically, you think you'll be able to do it? No, but if you came to class and you worked on your sparring, you worked on your striking, and you turn your striking into a habit, that's a reaction. My habit is to react with striking, with elbows, with knees, with headbutts, with nice punches, sending bombs. It doesn't matter how he grabs my shirt. It doesn't matter if he grabs my shirt or my arm or my hair, for those of you who have any hair left, right? It doesn't matter because I react violently and I react effectively. Why? Because I'm prepared to that. Yeah. This specific scenario, we'll get to the bridge, we'll cross it. Mm-hmm. But how do I know we'll cross it? Because I have all the tools to be able to cross a bridge. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the tools and you're just doing fake preparation, then you're in for a very big surprise.
I think it's the same as with back in school when you learned for a test, for instance. You sat down and there's a difference between something you're passionate about, something you know your way around, where you could just sit and have a conversation, and something that you're tested on and you're like, and then you can black out. And I think it's the same thing with being super prepared. You get into one of those situations, you don't feel comfortable, you have this idea of what you have to do, everything is gone in the situation when you're really stressed.
I wasn't the best student, so I don't know about the example for school. I assume you're right.
Just assume that I'm right, yeah.
But it just, you want to prepare for something, prepare for it exactly what you have to be doing, and going through scenarios and making them up and making this nonsense up. I mean, what are you doing on your knees with a guy with a gun to your head? I mean, come on, that's already you know, you have to start preparing your parents for a funeral.
Yeah.
You know, it's not but just fight. Just put the gloves on, spar, grapple, wrestle, word development drills. You'll be prepared for any scenario, you know, because you'll fight your way out of it.
And you won't black out. That's the most important thing. If you're just like pseudo prepared, then you will black out in a situation of stress. You won't remember anything. That's the most important thing. That's why, for instance, with the military, I mean, you also are a combat instructor. You also teach shooting. There's a difference between, you know how to deal with a gun, you know how to hold a gun, you know how to shoot a gun, and you do drills to get that instilled in you. You have to be comfortable around a gun. And it's the same thing with fighting. If you're not comfortable around the subject, if you're afraid to get and if you prepare in this way.
If you're afraid of fighting, then you have no business fighting. It's as simple as that.
But the issue is, we're talking about people who don't want to fight, who need to fight.
It's not about wanting or not. No one asked you if you want to fight. No one asked you if you want to have a battle this morning. It just happened.
Yeah.
Now deal with it. No one asked you, hey, you feel like protecting your family today? No one asked you that. It happened. Deal with it. And if you're not prepared correctly, then you can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And preparing correctly is full contact. It's word development drills, and it's mindset and principles.
Mm-hmm.
It's not thousands of nonsense and techniques.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's just bottom line how it is.
I think something that changed my perspective on, or thinking back that changed my perspective, is I've heard this. I think it was a rap song where the guy
sing it.
I don't remember the melody. That's the issue. I would. But he said, I think it was a song by Kanye West. And at some point he said he wasn't as scared to lose a fist fight. He didn't talk about having one. He said he's not afraid to lose one. And I think that's an important approach to something like that. And I noticed with training, the more I embraced potentially being hurt, but not thinking about it, the less I was actually hit or hurt, because you're more smooth. You're not afraid, you think less.
The more you're comfortable in fighting, the less you have to fight.
But that seems paradoxical. You think, okay, I don't care about being...
You project confidence. We spoke about that when you work out, when you lift weights, and especially when you fight. And when you project confidence, people don't mess with you.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, a guy walks into your face, and he's up close, he's so close you can smell his breath. You know, most people will get nervous. It's uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you want to be there, but if that does happen, a guy walks into your face, you should be like, well, hello. You know, this is my home. You just walked into my domain. You just walked into what I do for a living.
Yeah.
If I put my hand on you, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your attitude, then you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody could get that attitude with correct training.
Mm-hmm.
You know, almost anybody. Like I said, fighting is not for everybody, but almost anybody could get that attitude with correct training and with a good coach. But if you go in and, you know, you go twice a week and you do gun disarming when you can't even throw a punch,
mm-hmm.
and what are you doing? If you want to feel like you're in a Steven Seagal movie, you know, you want to feel like you're an action figure, fine, that's what you're doing. Okay, but don't think that you're actually getting ready for the real deal, because you're not. You're just playing games.
Yeah, and I think the issue is with this idea of being prepared, not only in the sense of outside, but also in the ring. If you have these ideas what you want to do, it's always this, you have to think about it. And we talked about, for instance, with wrestling. Wrestling, I think, is, for me, at the moment, the thing where I struggle most with. I love it, but it's like a thing where I struggle most with. And it's because I'm not used to the kind of movement. Like boxing and grappling, those are things that I'm familiar with, but with wrestling, it's still kind of new. Mm-hmm. And you see these ideas, thinking about it won't get it's not fast enough. You're not in the, you won't grab someone the way you want to if you think about it too much.
Well, you get to a point when you could actually use a takedown, let's say, for example, is when you just do it.
Mhm.
When you're just able to just do it. You don't have to think of it. It's timing. You just do it.
Yeah.
You feel it. You have that feeling. It's like that with a lot of other stuff. And to be able to do that, you have to do it over and over and over again, of course.
And that's the issue with being like, yeah, I've seen this technique, or in this Krav course, I've learned these 2 techniques when someone grabs my throat or my whatever, and you're like, I do this and I do that. You have to think about it. You're not prepared. You haven't done it 1,000 times. And it's
not like that. It's, okay, grab your throat, fine. And then the guy, there's no resistance. It's all. Just imagine a scenario where you walk out of your car, 2 a.m., and a guy just hits you in the head as hard. Why? Who cares why? He hits you. You're all dizzy. You're confused. And now he grabs your throat and starts squeezing the life out of you. Now what you're going to do? You're not going to remember the technique unless you're a professional.
Yeah.
Right? You're not. But if you train correctly on reacting, on you becoming the aggressor, on you becoming the attacker, on attacking the attacker, and not defending yourself, then you will be able to fight back and at least minimize the damage big time.
And also another downside with preparedness is people lose some of their quality of life. I've seen that with people who are like hyper aware of their surroundings.
You mean like just always like hyper alert?
Yeah, when you can't enjoy yourself somewhere where
that's
it's
already that's a mental thing. I don't think that has to do with you have people who have maybe PTSD and all that, but that's another whole other topic.
That's a whole different. That's not.
That's a whole other topic. But guys who just like to quote unquote like be prepared and I'm walking down the street like come on, man. There's a sentence I heard someone say once. I don't know who. Be prepared, not scared. It's pretty much that, and the more you are, the people that you just said, that, walking around like they're like ninjas, doing like flip flops or whatever, like in the,
but with tactical pants on.
Yeah, those are not usually, with respect or with no respect, whatever. Those are not usually professional people. It's just, I know a lot of people who are really good at fighting or really good at their field of inflicting violence. You'll never guess. You look at them, you'll never guess. They're calm, they're relaxed. They wear normal clothes. They're in their jeans. They're not like tactical camos with tactical kimonos and headbands. And no, that's don't get me started with
that. Don't start a rant now. Or you could. Yeah. But those are not the kind of people that you see being effective in this situation.
No, that's just people living in a fantasy.
Yeah.
That's not the idea. Train hard, mentally, physically, so warrior development drills, principles, and your technique. And that's what you need. Be prepared, not scared. I like that.
And how do you deal with that, to be someone who, because as we said earlier, the quote-unquote best case scenario for just security is lock yourself in the basement, order food, and never leave the house, and you won't be attacked, sure. But the idea is you have to have some quality of life, but also you shouldn't leave this idea of preparedness out of your mind. How do you balance that? How do you say there are certain things you can prepare for? Awareness is a big part of that, but also not just focus or not lose yourself in that.
There's no reason to lose yourself in that if you're a professional. You just be prepared. Be prepared, train, be physically fit, be ready to fight, go have a great time. And if you learn, I think we spoke about it before, but if you learn how to, scan a crowd, for example, and how to identify suspicious behavior, if you want, you could also do that. That will make you feel better. So scan the crowd first and identify suspicious behavior first and find the exits first, and then sit down and have a good time. You can't go through life thinking everybody wants to kill you. That doesn't sound like fun.
It's just about not clinging to these things constantly.
Yeah.
But then I think then there's another root issue. Then people are too afraid because they're not confident in their skills, or there's something, and then I think it can shift into I've learned these tools for preparedness or for awareness. Now I will constantly religiously perform I will scan the crowd, whatever, and then. But I think the root cause is something else. Then it's not about the preparation.
It's a mental thing. Yeah, it's just who they are, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not how it's supposed to be.
Mm.
Train, because training is, everybody should train.
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody's, in my opinion, obligation to know how to protect himself and his family.
Yeah.
Who else is going to do it for you if not you? So it's a skill that people must have, especially these days. The world is getting more and more violent. So learn how to be. Everybody has to be capable of violence because you never know what will happen.
Mm.
But then enjoy life.
This might be a weird question, but I think it's important for people who are not in this space, who this might be their first contact, or they haven't had martial arts training yet, or they have never been in a real fight, for instance, which is fine, but sometimes there's a lack of understanding for what a fight actually is. And I think that's important to talk about what a fight actually is. You're not in control when you're fighting. You're performing at the best you can, but you're not in control of a fight. You're never.
What do you mean, not in control?
I mean, I had this idea when I started out, like with boxing and stuff, and it was like, okay, if anything happens, I'll just give him this combination and everything is done. It's not like that. And oftentimes we're hit first, but this is not, because I've seen people, especially in this whole Krav scene, they talk so much about preemptive strikes and all of this stuff, and all of these ideas, all of these concepts, fine, but they require you to be in control of the situation, to make the decision. But that's not what a fight looks like. Sometimes they break out without you expecting it. Sometimes you just don't see it. Maybe you're out partying, you might be a little drunk, something, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you're not in control when a fight happens. You have to gain control, but you're not in control when it happens. And I think that's very important to understand, and for people to get this approach to understand fighting is not about you doing something. It's about you being hurt as little as possible and being as aggressive as possible.
Minimizing damage.
Minimizing damage, yeah.
Exactly. Minimizing damage, getting control back, as you say, and moving forward. Losing is not an option. One of the, say a difference, let's say you were in a special unit or something like that, you are in control. You're the one who's you're the one who's kicking the door in. So everything is, you're in control. But a normal guy, a girl walking down the street, you could.
You never know.
You never know. But that's one of the things the warrior development drills help a lot with.
Yeah.
A fight sometimes feels like a bad dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is like weird and
it's hard to move.
It's hard
strange,
to move, and you're trying to hit really hard, but you feel like you're not hitting hard.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes how a fight could feel like, But the more you train hard in the training, physically, with contact, and with warrior development drills and with the principles, the better your reaction is going to be.
Yeah.
Right? And all you could be doing a lot of different techniques and all that. That's not going to prepare you for that kind of aggression.
Mm-hmm.
But training correctly, you'll be able to, yes, you were surprised, but then how did you react to it?
Yeah.
And how did you react to it has a lot to do with your training. Unless you're a very special kind of person who, really good under pressure, really, most of us are not. You have to train yourself to do that. Mm-hmm. And with correct training, it's very possible. But it has to be correct training. To get the control back, as you say. I call, people say, aggression is the number one weapon. Mm-hmm. It's true. To an extent, it's true. Aggression is very important. It always covers for us with a technique you don't know. Just be aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to call it controlled aggression.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? If I'm just going crazy, I'm not thinking or anything, it's not going to be good enough in many cases. But if you're trained, if you're a professional, you're able to be very, very aggressive and very, very professional at the same time. I call it controlled aggression. That makes you a very, very dangerous person. Mm-hmm. Because I'm trying to kick your ass, but I'm doing it as a professional. Mm-hmm. That's a world of difference there. Mm-hmm. And you get to that level by correct training.
Yeah. And still, I think it's important for people to understand. We talked about this with the multiple attackers. We kind of talked about this, but still, and even at your level, when there's a fight, and it's not like a fight in a ring, even then, but if the competitor is up to your level, but a fight, even at your level of skill, is still a chaotic thing.
Very chaotic. It's very, very chaotic. It always looks bad.
Mm.
You know, but it is what it is. You know, it's not it's not like in the movies. You know, it's very chaotic. You slip, you fall, they fall on top of you. You know, and not to mention the fact that we spoke about this as well, that you lose 50% of your technical capability just because you're nervous.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
You know, of course it's going to be messy, but that's why I keep repeating it because it's important. Those warrior development drills are so crucial because they
get you used.
One of the tools that get you ready for that chaos. You know, and if you're used to chaos, so once it becomes chaos, that's your world.
Yeah,
that's what you do.
Yeah,
you know, that's what you're used to doing, and sometimes even good fighters, like sports, like let's say good grapplers, good wrestlers, are not used to that kind of chaos that you could bring in a fight. You know, because they don't in a street fight. I mean, and it's very important to prepare for that kind of chaos with correct drills.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what makes me mad when people watch, let's say, UFC fights, and they see two fighters, and then some dude, like a basement dweller, is like, he should have done this and that takedown, and there's the level that these people still operate on, even though they have so much pressure against each other, because usually, not always, but these fights are usually kind of organized in a way that they kind of are on the same level, be it strength-wise, technique. Maybe they're different technicians, but still they're both incredible fighters if they made it so far.
Right.
And the idea is, even that they can still kind of pull off these kind of moves in that under that amount of pressure is already very extraordinary. But now these people are like, you should have done this. It's so easy, whatever.
Don't get mad.
That's the issue.
Why are you getting mad? People talk.
No, but I mean that's where you see people don't understand what a fight is, even a professional fight.
No, because they've never been there.
Yeah.
You never hear a guy who's been there, say that. I was I think this was I remember the year. I think it was 2019. I was in Costa Rica with training with ICCS over there. Great friend of mine, a brother, and we watched. We went to watch a fight. It was Conor McGregor against Khabib, and I'm sure a lot of people saw that fight. And he got to his back, right, and he face locked him.
Strangled him. Yeah.
It wasn't a choke. It was a
right.
Face lock, and he tapped whatever, and there was two people on the other table commenting the whole time, and one of them said to the other, "Why did he tap? I would never tap from that." I was laughing because obviously, dude, you know what you're talking about. You know, you've never been in that scenario before. Yeah. People talk. So what? You know, it is what it is. People like to talk.
Yeah. Also, something that those people don't understand is, like especially people like Khabib, for instance, he's built like a chimpanzee. He's very strong. It's like he's not that. Like as we talked about in the fitness episode, it's not like this bodybuilder guy, but everything he touches, he breaks, and I think that's the important part. It's just the pure strength that makes you. It's so much pressure.
That's, if you ask me, that's genetics,
or maybe that's that.
It's genetics. He's a very strong guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing that most people don't understand. It's like it's not about the choke. It's not about this or that. It's about the amount of pressure that someone can mount on a joint on your face lock. Yeah. You will tap. I'm talking from experience. You will tap. At some points, you just can't take it. Yeah, and also, I think you said this when teaching control and restraint once. You said control and restraint only works for people you could easily beat up.
I said that the first rule of control and restraint is you could only control and restrain someone that if need be, you could also kick his ass.
Yeah.
If it's opposite, you better get it back up.
Yeah. So that's the idea. the control and restraint where you approach with certain techniques, with certain ideas, that only works if the fight is less chaotic because you're so...
A control and restraint is, we could talk about that another time because it's a big topic, but you take the initiative, you decide to control and restrain a person for any reason.
It's not in a fight.
But you're the one who's, if the fists are already flying, that's not the time to go for a control and restrain move. It's just time to punch him back and then control and restrain him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most, or that for me was a very good way to approach this idea of when it's chaotic, there's no, sometimes you see an opening maybe, but there's no place for technique.
You gotta almost enjoy the chaos.
Yeah.
And you gotta be comfortable in chaos. And the way to do that is to do word development drills and including a lot of multiple opponent sparring because the technique goes out the window. What's left is your leg work, I would say, and then your ability to throw fast, explosive punches. Again, going back to physical fitness. Yeah. You know, but that's what it really comes down to. And multiple opponents is a very big, very common thing in the street. And it's always chaotic. People are always pushing you, shoving you, you slip in, you're all over the place. And the best way to prepare for it is to actually do that. Yeah. And then to get comfortable in chaos. Chaos should be your backyard when it comes to a fight. Yeah. You know, a technique has its place when you go and obviously, you know, and then in the cage, you know, there's one guy and it's another professional. So there's always, there's that mutual respect or feeling out each other for a minute or two. That's not how it's going to work in a fight. It's going to go 0 to 100 right away. Yeah. Right away, chaos. And just prepare for that mentally and physically. Prepare for chaos and learn to love chaos. Oh, you want to go chaos? Let's go. I love chaos. Let's do this right now, me and you. You know, but I'm going crazy. I'm throwing my punches. I'm moving, but I'm also, what I said before, controlled aggression. You add that controlled aggression to that chaos, you're a very, very dangerous person. Yeah. Very dangerous person. But if the first time you ever had a fight is just like that, the first time you deal with it is in the street, you have a problem.
I wondered, even though you travel a lot, you still live in Israel. And in the episode where we talked about the gun disarm and stuff, you said, or you described the situation of how this one active killer was kind of locked in by these high school kids, I think you said. And I was wondering if, when you look at that population, who are kind of more used to also violence or terror in their everyday life than, let's say, the average American or European, is that something where the exposure to it makes people react this way, or is it just is something? What's different about these people? Why do they react so differently from other places?
I would say it's the mentality of the people. Also, the exposure to it, of course, but that brings the mentality. Also, you know, most people in Israel serve the military, at least a little bit, you know.
But the high school kids didn't serve yet.
No, but their parents did, their brothers did, and their uncles did, and they heard stories, you know, and they want to serve. So it's a different mentality. It's a strong nation, you know. Not talking about physically strong. I'm talking about mental strength. You know, let's say there's an active killer. A lot of times when you're in another country, they'll tell you when they teach, okay, how do you, because, you know, you hear gunshots, but you're not sure where it's coming from. So say, okay, everybody's running one direction, you run the other direction, you'll find the guy. Everyone's running away from him. But a lot of times in Israel, they'll tell you, you know, run with the crowd because everyone's running towards the guy. It's a different mentality.
So you think it's the mixture of exposure and then exposure kind of leaves its imprint on the culture, and then that makes up another mentality. People are used to that and they see other people who have been trained, and that makes people more prone to that sort of reaction than to just freeze.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the way you grow up, you know.
So that's not training. That's basically how you've been raised.
How you've been raised, and they're amazing people, you know. And it's It's also in Israel the whole aspect of helping each other is much different than Europe, for example.
Like a sense of community.
Yeah, the community, and if there's trouble, there's a lot of organizations that will help you, and people volunteer much more than other countries. I see that a lot because the fight is close to home. And the fight is close to home. You got to stick together. I think that's part of it too.
Sharir, thank you. I think we should wrap this up. Is there something left you want to say or to add?
Oh, train smart, stay safe. See you later.
So guys, see you next week. Bye-bye.